everybody. It's Joseph here with
Jared Blue.
And we're getting together in this episode of the Faithful Podcast, and it's an exciting episode. I'm going to be interviewing Pastor Jared when he went to Honduras in 2001 on a mission trip. So let's get this interview started.
Sounds good.
So for those who don't go to Hope Chapel who are watching this video, you're an associate pastor here at Hope Chapel, and your function is?
Yes, I'm the community life pastor, so I oversee all of our small groups, what we call mini church, and they're just groups that meet throughout the week outside of the regular service times to go over the weekend sermon in more detail and draw out application and just how to take what the sermon is and apply it to your life and then tell other people about it.
And also my go-to person when I need mini church advice help too.
Sure.
Yes. Also, another thing to add is you're a lymphoma survivor. For those who might not know you.
Yes.
There's many interesting stories Jerry can share. And it would take more than 3 videos.
Yeah, so at some, let's see, I'm always horrible with dates. 2014, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma and leukemia. And 2018, after 4 years of treatments and radiation and pills and chemotherapy and everything I had to take, I've been in remission since October of 2018. Praise God.
Yes.
Because that's the only way that would have happened.
Yes, that's God's mercy. And after surviving all that, you became an associate pastor at Hope Chapel. Then you became a father.
Yeah.
And it all happened at once. And it's like all that trials, and then all these blessings happen at the end. Yeah. It's like, wow.
God has a plan.
God has a plan, and He's so merciful. So your dad is the one who first started getting involved in Honduras, right?
Correct. Yes.
How did he get involved in Honduras?
So my dad has been a pastor for a long time, longer than I've been alive, so 40 plus years, and he's part of the United Brethren denomination, and there's a United Brethren presence in Honduras, and some connections were made through my dad's church and the Honduran conference over there. So they found out they needed some help, and they reached out to my dad, and he was one of several UB churches that went over there to help. And
for context, the United Brethren, from what I'm reading in a book you let me borrow, they first arrived in 1945 in Honduras.
I believe that's correct.
Yes. So around the time your dad went was in the mid-90s, so would it be around like the 50th anniversary at that time?
Yeah.
Good. And so how did your dad present the idea to you, like, let's go on a mission trip together? How'd that go?
Yes, so, and it wasn't just myself and my dad. There was probably, I think, let me remember now, about 15 of us that went, and I was really heavily involved in the youth group at that time, and my dad was actually the youth pastor. Oh! So I was at church a lot. When your dad's a youth pastor, you go.
When you're a pastor's kid.
Yes, you're at church all the time. So we always did like a number of mission trips on like a yearly basis, and this was the one that we were focusing on this particular year, so he brought it up. And I would usually go to these things, but this one I was particularly excited about because I knew there was a lot of like soccer influence or football.
Yeah, everywhere else it's called football. We're the only country in the world that calls football soccer.
I guess you use your feet, use your socks.
Yeah.
Whatever have you. But yeah, I was excited because I knew there'd be a lot of that like culture around it, and I really like soccer. So yeah, I was interested in going. That was a mission trip that we were doing that year, so it all lined up.
So when you went there, it was 2001, right?
Yes.
Yes, and you were in your junior high school.
Correct.
So you were a young lad, and when you got to Honduras, you flew from the U.S., and where was the airport you landed at? Do you kind of remember?
San Pedro Sula.
San Pedro Sula. Okay. And so you got there, and where was the first place you went to in Honduras working?
The city that we were helping out was La Ceiba.
La Ceiba, okay.
La Ceiba, Honduras.
Okay. And what did you guys do there? What was the main work?
Right. So I forget what the particular church was called.
Okay.
But it was this church, and they had like a complex. There was a church, there was a school, and there was a facility where women could learn job skills, things like that. I don't know exactly what the job skills were, but they were trying to help them be independent. And what we were doing, it was a part of like a 5-week building project to build this gym slash like meeting center.
Okay.
And each week a different United Brethren youth group came and did some work.
Now, how many weeks were you in Honduras total for that mission trip?
We were there for about a week and a half. So
a week and a half.
10, 12 days.
Okay. And so, Jared, you have some mementos from your Honduras mission trip?
I actually do.
So what do you got there?
So these are two pieces of construction material that were from the work project that I participated in the mission trip that I went on to Honduras. It's just some concrete and some rebar, and it's just from the gym slash auditorium that we ended up helping to construct. And on our last day there, I went back to where the construction was at, and there's like always a little scrap pile on the outside. And I just took just a piece of rebar and a piece of this concrete because I wanted to remember just the time there in Honduras and helping out with the project. And yeah, because I know we always forget things sometimes, so I thought it'd be nice just to have a little reminder of it.
That's awesome. And there's something else that you're going to show us too, right?
Yes, I have one more thing.
So what's this you got?
So I also got this from Honduras, and we did a building project, and then we also visited several displaced communities while we were there, several day trips to help out. And I got this from, they don't have really a lot of ways to make money over there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people do is they make little trinkets and little things like this, and they sell them. And so in the village that was displaced, they were set up in between two concrete walls. There was some people that were selling some things. So I bought this there. It's a little kind of gorilla orangutan
with a soccer ball.
With a soccer ball.
And a hat.
And a hat. And it looks like they're trying to do the Adidas logo.
And it looks like it was probably made out of coconut, doesn't it?
Yes, this is made from coconut, and they carved it out, and it was pretty cool. And it says Honduras right there. I thought it was again a good way to remember it and also help out them financially. Just give them some money because I'm sure that doesn't look easy. So they worked hard for it. So I thought it'd be a good idea to.
And when you went there, this was around the time Honduras most of Central America had been hit 3 years earlier by Hurricane Mitch in '98. And the damage you saw there, it was still like visible, the damage, right? Hurricane Mitch.
Yes. So the area around where we were at, like the compound was at, was decent, but I mean that's like a relative word.
Right.
But a lot of our kind of day mission trips, we went to several places outside of that specific building projects. We did a couple other things, and when you left that area, yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah,
the damage is really bad. To give context, 7,000 Hondurans were killed in Hurricane Mitch in '98. And if you watch video, there's video of it still on YouTube, the archives. It's scary when you're looking at the actual, when it was happening in '98, the actual storm and all that. The landslides and all that. It was insane. Mm-hmm. And it pretty much just almost destroyed the banana industry for good at the time in Honduras, which is like their main export. What was your impact when you saw that poverty, the damage, especially the damage to the hurricane?
I mean, it just puts everything in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the two kind of like day trips we did outside of just the building project.
Yeah.
One of them was to it was a dump.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a dump or a landfill. It was also like people like lived there. Because they were their homes were destroyed and they couldn't rebuild.
They're homeless.
They had nothing to rebuild. And, I mean, it's a dump, but there's potential food. Even though it's old or whatever have you, past its date, I guess still stomachable. And when you don't have money to buy food, that's the next best thing, I guess. But I still remember, like, we were in this van and, like, pulling in, and you just... It's like heartbreaking. You see there's dogs all over the place too. There's dogs running all over. They're scrounging for food, and then you look over and you see this I don't know, like toddler age kid like looking for food like next to a dog, and I don't even know how to describe that feeling. But
it's insane as us as Americans coming from like so much privilege and stability. to go and then to see that, it's just an out of world experience, isn't it?
And we brought like as much humanitarian aid as we could. We're just one small group, only there for a short time, but yeah, it was extensive. There was a number of people living there, and then when you start like you see that, and then your eyes open up to like see everything, and you see all these like different people kind of trying to scrounge for what they can find, and right alongside with the dogs that are doing it. And it's just a heartbreaking reality that you don't really see, like you're saying.
Yeah, we don't see that normally
in America.
here.
So yeah, that was one of the things I remember from the damage. And then the second thing that really stuck out for like speaking about damages and stuff, another day trip that we did.
Yeah.
We went to this place, if I remember it right, all the homes were destroyed pretty much.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping I remember this correctly. The government built these two like walls that of like cinder blocks, and it was long and skinny. It wasn't really wide, and this is where they told people like build your houses in between these two cinder block walls.
Makeshift, whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's not there's nothing. It's literally like tin sticks. Parts of buildings that don't go together.
Makeshift shacks.
At best.
Yeah.
At best. And there's this whole community that was living in here, and they had nothing, so we did a similar thing, Humanitarian Aid.
Yeah.
No one, I guess, had like family photos or things like, or it was all destroyed, so we brought some like cameras that give to families. So they had like pictures and
did family portraits for them.
Yeah.
And framed them and stuff.
Yep. Did it all nice for them. I guess just like a small gesture, but that's kind of a nice thing.
Yeah.
That you can have some sense of home. And it was again crazy that these people are living in between these two just walls. And I think one of the biggest like heart torn out, thrown on the ground moments. We also brought like sports equipment, like soccer balls, frisbees, and just playing with the kids.
Yeah.
Because they were, and of course, when we think of playing soccer, we think of like a grass field.
Yeah.
And it like looks nice.
And goal nets and all that.
But they were like kicking around, like some clothes, rags like that look like, just like how you take socks and roll them up and put them in your like drawer. That's like what they were kicking around.
Yeah.
And it was a dirt field. There's like bottles and
trash all over the place.
And trash. I'm like, these kids just run around barefoot, crazy.
And they could step on broken glass.
Yeah, they were fine with it. But anyways, we were playing soccer there, and it was a blast. Just had a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Enjoying ourselves. You don't speak the same language, but I feel like sports are universal.
It is a universal language. Yes, it is.
And the hard part was when it was time for us to go. You had to kind of, there was like this barbed wire fence, and you kind of had to go in between it to get out. And so I was kind of like ducking down to go out, and I was about to be done, and I felt like my shirt being like pulled behind me. I thought I was caught. So I turned around, and I wasn't caught. It was this little kid, and he was pulling my shirt.
Yeah.
And there was another little kid next to him, and he was holding all of the sports equipment that we had brought when we brought it to leave it.
Oh, and they were trying to give it back?
They were trying to give it back.
Wow.
So this is these people, their homes are destroyed, they have nothing, they have no way to live, they have no way to make money, they're living in between two concrete walls, and someone just brings all this cool like stuff they haven't seen in, I don't know, maybe never.
Yeah.
And
they don't think they deserve it.
And they're like making sure that we don't forget it.
Wow.
And it's like, it's a whole perspective switch, and what you view as important and priorities and everything. So that was a huge moment.
Wow. So what was it like when you and your dad were flying back to the U.S., the feeling?
Yes. It's, I mean, my dad would always call it like the mountaintop experience. Like you have this huge
like a
spiritual high.
Yeah.
And then when you like come back to like normalcy and stuff, and it's like a different experience. And it actually happened before we left. And when I was talking with my dad about this trip in preparation to talk to you to make sure I kind of have my information right, we were talking about it, and one of the, not the last day, but like the second to last day we were there, we just had some fun, and we went to Roatan, which is actually a really beautiful place in Honduras, more touristy, and I think at the time it was like
least affected by the hurricanes too.
Yes, and it was like the second best place to snorkel like in the world.
Wow.
Like only second to like the Great Barrier Reef.
Wow.
So, needless to say, it was beautiful, but coming from like helping this building project and these 2-day trips of people like living in devastation,
squalid poverty and garbage dumps.
We're like getting all these like, and it's like the same country. It's not a big country. And to think that like just in this little portion of this country, we're like getting all this like awesome food, and it's not really expensive by our standards,
especially with U.S. dollars,
right? And not even, I don't know how many miles it was. It didn't feel like it was very far away. These people are fighting off dogs for food, so it was a big emotional, spiritual change, and the sad thing is, I think as we all kind of deal with this, you forget, and time goes on, and things happen, and you kind of forget how impactful those things are. You remember the point, and you remember that there is something, but unfortunately, the farther you get away from an experience, sometimes you forget the impactfulness.
We let things in life get in the way of that.
Yeah, we get super busy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was I remember it being a hard transition going from just having things at our fingertips to people in devastation to now back to your normal
American way of life.
Normal life of ease.
So this is just part 1 of our video series. We're going to be doing part 2 about Honduras, but talking more about current things going on.
Right.
And we're going to be talking from a biblical perspective how to address those things. One of the things we'll be talking about is the migrant crisis that's been going on, especially since 2018 in Honduras. We're going to be discussing the root causes of it and how to address it as Christians and with some answers to it. So stay tuned, guys. This is just part 1.
All right.
Bye.
See you then.